Hello, everyone. My name's John Hegarty. I am creative director of the Garage Soho here in London. I was a founder shareholder of Saatchi & Saatchi back in 1970, helped set the London office of TBWA up in 1973. And in 1982, I was the creative founder with my two other partners, Nigel Bogle and John Bartle, founding Bartle Bogle Hegarty in 1982. And I'm now, as I said, creative director of the Garage Soho here in London, which helps businesses get started and helps them with their branding. So lovely to talk to you and lovely to be able to talk about the business of creativity. So the first question here is, what is the big lesson you have learned from either art or music? There are many lessons, obviously, but I think one of the most profound ones and the most interesting ones is keep doing it. Don't give up. And there's a great belief that, creativity is best done by younger people. Yes, there are some brilliant young people doing brilliant creative work, brilliant things out there. But, some of the greatest artists did their best work in their later years, and they talk about keep doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more confident you get, the more you will achieve. So that's one of the lessons, a profound lesson, I think, about either art or music. And if you watch or listen to people talking about certainly their musical careers, they will talk about how getting better and doing great work is. Another question here is, what black swans have you had to deal with, and how did you turn them white? Black swans are supposed to be about incredibly unusual events that occur. And we talked today about, we seem to be getting black swans in flocks rather than just occasionally. I suppose most of the black swans I've had to deal with have been recessions. And I'm now on my 9th recession. So as we're just about to go into another one, or probably are in it already. And the thing I've learned about recessions is it's a wonderful opportunity for creativity to flower, because people have to rethink what they're doing. They have to look at the resources they've got. They haven't got more resources. Often they've got less. So those who've done really well are the ones who turn to creativity and go, I've got to do more with less. Creativity teaches you how to do that and how to apply that. So I think that's the way you turn a recession into a positive event, or you turn a black swan white. Remember that creativity is there to make more out of what you've got. My third question here is, do you think experience makes creative people more cynical and less courageous? The answer to that is obviously no, I don't. I think the more you do it, the more confident you get. So much about creativity is confidence, the confidence to do it. Because you're always, certainly in our industry, the advertising industry, you're trying to do something that is different. I don't say use the word original, I think that's an overused word, but you're trying to do something that's different, that's fresh. The confidence that you gain from your past experience helps you navigate the ability to kind of do something different, to do something fresh. So I would say the more experience you've got, ostensibly, the better you should be at doing it. What is the best advice you can give a young creative person? Well, the best advice is get as close as you possibly can to having the idea. All right? Because that's the one thing that isn't going to go away. Despite what people say about AI and data and all that shit. I mean, data is important, don't get me wrong, but the idea that AI is going to start having ideas, yes, it is going to have ideas, but it's going to have ideas that is based on what has been. It isn't going to be able to imagine a fresh and completely different way of doing something. So my best advice to any young creative person is to get as close as you possibly can to having the idea, but that's the one bit of the creative world that isn't going to go away. Number 5 here says, do interesting things and interesting things will happen to you. It's one of my mantras. and it says, would you like to share a personal story of interesting thing that was a defining moment for you? I suppose one of them was when I first came into the industry back in, well, I won't even go how far back it was. It was so long ago, it's almost embarrassing. But I had two job offers. One of them was from Young and Rubicam, and the other was from an American agency, which is also Young and Rubicam is American, called Benson and Bowles. Benson and Bowles doesn't exist anymore. And the Young and Rubicam agency was offering twice the money of the Benson and Bowles. And a friend of mine said, you know, John, I think I would go to Benson and Bowles, even though it's paying you less than Y&R, literally half as less, because a great art director has gone there from New York, and I think you'll learn a lot from him. So I did. I went there. I was earning half the amount of money, but in my first 2 weeks, I met Charles Saatchi, and Charles Saatchi and I became a copywriter and art director together, and we shared amazing success in developing our own individual careers. So if I had taken the money, not done the interesting thing, wouldn't have met Charles Saatchi, wouldn't have been a partner in Saatchi and Saatchi, probably wouldn't have met my partners, wouldn't have started BBH. So do interesting things, and interesting things will happen to you. And the other added example, don't follow the money, follow the opportunity. If you could do something over, what would it be? I'd probably like to do most things over, actually. You're always sort of dissatisfied with what you've done. You always kind of look back on it and go, God, if I had my time to do, I'd just change this, I'd just do that, I'd make that work. So you're always going to be slightly dissatisfied. It's one of the great drawbacks of a creative profession, a creative pursuit. You said, you mentioned that creativity is not an occupation, it's a preoccupation. Can someone become too preoccupied with it? Yes, of course you can. You become, you know, if you become obsessed about something, it can be dangerous. I love the idea of being passionate about something and constantly engage with something. To become obsessed about something, to my mind, you lose perspective. And if you lose perspective, then it's going to harm your creativity. So yes, of course, it's a preoccupation, but be careful. You know, it's about life as well. The creative process is completely dysfunctional. What do you mean by that? Well, I mean that you know, always I dealt with, you know, organizations, I dealt with clients, I dealt with agencies who are always trying to systemize the creative process. They're always trying to make a system out of it. And you know, you tried as much as you possibly can. You had briefing documents that laid out a process of what we were going to do. But in the end, it is dysfunctional in the sense that you can't say this is how an idea happens. If you put 5 hours into it, you'll get a good idea. If you put 10 hours into it, you'll get a great idea. And if you put 20 hours into it, you'll get an even better idea. It isn't like that. It's mad, it's dysfunctional, but it's wonderful. And enjoy the process that you can't pin it down, and allow the freedom for people to kind of react, bounce off each other, and come up with something great. But it is dysfunctional, and celebrate it. Try and formulate it as much as you can, but in the end, you can't create a process. It's not like doing a piece of research, you know, not like researching a new drug or something like that. You create a drug, you do trials, you do this, you do that. There is a process. Creativity, it can just come from anywhere. It is dysfunctional. You've recommended surrounding yourself and collaborating with the best people. Who have been your best collaborators? Well, throughout my career, I've worked with the most wonderful, you know, people, from film directors to painters to writers to illustrators, editors, strategists. I mean, it's so many that it will be hard to sort of pin any particular one person down. I wouldn't like to do that. But it's just important, you know, always work with great people, you know, always work with people who are hopefully better than you, more experienced in their particular field than you, and you will learn from them and your work will get better. Surround yourself with bright people and it will rub off. Very, very important. The next one says, what is your advice to creative people when they don't know how to move the needle from good to great? I think this is always a question. I think, again, I've always found inspiration from looking at great work. Surround yourself with great work. Step back, look at great work, look at how it performs, look at why, question why you liked it, what you thought about it, and stop trying to do great. Stop trying to do it. Do something that surprises you. Do something that kind of you find is sort of maybe silly, maybe daft, but it just begins to open up your thinking. But if you try too hard, you won't do it. There's a great book you should read, and it's about sport, and it's called The Inner Game of Tennis. And it talks about how you've got to there are two selves. There's the front self, self one, and the true self, self two. And in having an idea, you've got to get rid of self one and adopt self two. I suggest if you're having a problem with that, read the book. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis. It's about how you actually achieve what you want to achieve. So anyway, I hope that answers some of your questions. And the most important thing about creativity is to have fun. It's enjoyable. It's really, really great. So go out there and enjoy it. Thanks a lot.